Hi, I'm Allie.
Hey, I'm Mario, and this is the East and West Atlantic Real Estate Podcast.
Hi, Mario.
Hi, Ali.
Welcome back, everyone, to another fantastic episode of East and West Atlantic Real Estate. I'm Allie Graham here in the Hamptons.
And I'm Mario here in Portugal.
Amazing. Mario, I'm going to be interviewing you today about all things Portugal. I'm very, very excited for this episode.
Looking forward to it. Happy to share a lot about this beautiful country.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Okay, so if it's okay with you, I'm just going to jump straight into it.
Absolutely. Go for it.
Excellent. In our last episode, you touched a little bit on the growth of tourism in Portugal and real estate in the last decade. Can you tell us a little bit more about what makes Portugal such an attractive destination to visit and invest in?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, first of all, I like the connection between tourism and real estate because ultimately it was really tourism that put the country on the map. Was traditionally many years ago, as I mentioned in the first episode, in the 90s, relatively unknown destination, at least not comparable to some of the other Western European countries. And in the last 2 decades, especially in the last decade, tourism has been booming tremendously. I mean, the tourism really put the destination on the map. And for different types of tourism, in particular, because, the country has so much to offer. So hence why tourism has been increasing, whether it's nature tourism, beach tourism, city cultural tourism. And ultimately, that led to the current boom in real estate that we're experiencing as well, because, people get curious about the destination and then in the second phase might even consider investing in that same destination because they can relate to many things that the destination has to offer. So just to give you a little taste of what really are the most attractive, or to your question, what are the most attractive things the country has to offer that have really triggered this increase in both tourism and real estate? Foremost, I would say the friendliness of the people. This is a country that has extremely hospitable people. People are extremely friendly. Foremost, little detail for the Americans, pretty much everybody speaks English here. So, North Americans love to come over because they can easily communicate without needing to know Portuguese or to learn the language. The climate, it's absolutely amazing. We have here in Lisbon, we have 300 days of sunshine a year. It's the Western European capital with most sunny hours. So that's obviously a big attraction point because it adds tremendously to quality of life in this country as well, not only to visit, but to ultimately live.
You have me at hello. 300 days of sunshine? That's incredible.
300 days of sunshine. Yeah. And that's not a lie. That's statistically, that's not me making it up.
Wow.
That's really statistically proven.
So tell me this. So something that's always really important to me if I'm traveling or visiting anywhere is the food. So talk to me about the food in Portugal.
My favorite subject, being Italian myself, how can I not talk about food? That's another one of those untapped things in Portugal. I mean, the food is absolutely exquisite. Foremost, we're on the Atlantic. The fish and the seafood is fantastic, is also reflected in some of the national dishes. But it's not only about the fish. I mean, you can have great meat, you can have all kinds of different cuisines. And that's another typicality, which is pretty much similar to other European countries, is that every region has its own specialities. There's such a great food scene because there's so much authenticity to uncover from north to south. You add to that having become more and more international as well, the food scene has literally exploded. So quality of the ingredients, the quality of the food here is absolutely amazing. I won't go into too much detail, otherwise this becomes a gastronomic podcast as opposed to, a real estate podcast. But it definitely contributes, and it's a big attraction point, and it's increasingly known worldwide. When we talk about countries like France and Italy who've been on the map from a gastronomical point of view for a long time, Portugal is again being put on the map extensively right now with everything's going on, and food is inferior to none.
So that's fantastic. I love to hear that. So there's another question. So my American audience is going to want to know about, and that's health and safety. So can you talk to us a little bit about health and safety?
Absolutely. I mean, starting with health, the healthcare system is extremely good here. We have very modern hospitals. You can also take private insurances, like in obviously in any country, which from my understanding are relatively low priced, especially compared to the United States. Confirm that to me, Ali. But for instance, here to have a solid, like fully integrated private health insurance, you'll be spending anywhere in between 150 and 200 euros monthly. which I understood for, American standards is not expensive at all. And that gives you access to top-notch hospitals with top-notch doctors. So healthcare is really fantastic. I mean, it's an absolute plus. The other thing is safety. And again, this is something that, we pride ourselves about here in Portugal, is that Lisbon in particular, but that goes for the rest of the country as well. But if you compare Lisbon with other capitals, literally there's no criminality. There's no worry to walk around anywhere wearing whatever kind of jewelry you want. Honestly, it's something that is also a key differentiator because people like to feel safe, right? And it is an extremely safe country. Extremely safe. It's always been a very specific country, and it keeps being so. And it's part of the DNA. And we don't have issues. There might be petty crime like there is anywhere else in the world. I mean, you can never deny that, but it's definitely a very safe haven.
I love that. So great for my listeners out there who have families, right?
Absolutely. And that's we've seen that as one of the biggest drivers. I mean, there's been a very, very substantial increase, in particular from two markets. I mean, there's many more markets when it comes to both tourism and real estate, but we've seen a substantial increase of Americans buying into Portugal and visiting Portugal, Brazilians, and safety is always one of the top priorities of those people when you talk to them about possible investments. And it's reassuring because those that ultimately have, made the investments are the first investors to say, hey, this is a place with fantastic healthcare, great climate, safety is a non-issue, and so forth and so on. So they're our biggest brand ambassadors, just like me. We spoke about that in the first episode. We're both foreigners, living in another country.
Yeah.
Who better to advocate what's great about the country, right?
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. You're painting such a beautiful picture of the country. Talk to me about economically what's happening in Portugal and what's been happening in the last handful of years.
Very interesting developments, Ali, and I'm glad you asked the question because the size of the country doesn't make it comparable to a country like France or Spain when it comes to industry, right? So it has evolved to be a country that is predominantly, even though there is industry, service driven. So the economy, tourism is one of the largest contributors to the economy, okay? But at the same time, there have been very interesting developments as to attracting foreign investment into Portugal in different fields. One is in the field of tourism, which we touched upon already. The other one is in the field of sustainable energies. There's always been, and especially in the last 10, 15 years, tremendous emphasis on attracting innovation, okay? Being innovative and attracting anybody wanting to be involved in innovation. For instance, we have an enormous amount of digital nomads that are moving into Portugal because there's a tremendous focus on technology, and that brings along not only locally there's a lot of enthusiasm to develop and to support startups in the field of technology and digital transformation and sustainable energy, but there's a lot of drive and a lot of willingness from Portugal as a country to attract foreigners into those industries and subsequently attract foreign investment to support those industries, so to say. So I would say those have been the major trends, and it really reflects. I mean, there's a lot of people from all over the world, youngsters as well, that come here that feel very much at ease because of the, working environment, but also the quality of life, and it's the combination of the two that ultimately attracts people.
You know what? I have never met someone who's returned from Portugal and said, I had a terrible time. Everyone comes back and says, oh my gosh, Portugal is the place to go. Talk to me about what are some of the really popular destinations in Portugal. If I was going to visit or think about investing in Portugal, where would I go?
Well, obviously, the top three destinations have been and still are, despite other destinations that are up and coming, which I will talk to you about as well. The top three destinations when it comes to both visiting and investing have been traditionally Lisbon, the capital, and then the coastal area near Lisbon, which is Estoril Cascais, which is about 25 kilometers. I don't know how to convert that in miles, but it must be about 14, 15 miles from Lisbon.
15 miles.
Right?
Yeah.
So Lisbon, Estoril and Cascais are definitely and have traditionally been the most visited areas and simultaneously the areas in which there's been more movement in terms of investment. Porto, which is the city in the north, which is absolutely stunning, and in particular amongst foreigners for its port wine, right? And its incredible heritage also from a cultural point of view. And then there's the Algarve, which is the resort area, which has always been very known for its golf courses, something that obviously Americans do like a lot as well. for its incredible climate. And when I say incredible climate, it's probably the most incredible climate in the whole of Western Europe. It's that little strip in the south, which pretty much always has good weather, even better weather than we have in Lisbon. And that's an area that is particularly known for those that like, that like the resort feel, that like to live in a resort area, so to say. Those are really those have been traditionally the main hubs. Now, beside that, as we have more than 1,000 kilometers of coastal, of coastline, basically, because we're on the west side of the Iberian Peninsula, there's new areas developing a lot, not only along the coast, but also the interior, because there's so much untapped authenticity, that can be uncovered. For instance, one of the trends that we've been seeing, more and more people investing into what's called the Silver Coast, which is between Lisbon and Porto. Another trend would be people looking to purchase wineries, quintas. Quintas are like, call it farmhouses with the possibility to either go and live there, or literally, people that are passionate about wine that say, well, we want to have our own piece of wineries within Portugal. And that's another trend which is really up and coming. People going into rural areas for either, tourism purposes, but also for investment purposes. And that's it in a nutshell, because there would be much more to elaborate upon. Yeah.
Amazing. So I'm going to ask a silly question now. Like, with that much coastline, I'm sure there's beautiful beaches for people to go to.
Amazing beaches, amazing, very unspoiled beaches. I mean, the beaches here obviously are all on the Atlantic, because we're the part of the Iberian Peninsula that is on the west side. So beautiful beaches all the way from the Algarve all the way up to. The only thing that will change is obviously the temperatures, because going more towards the north, not only the water might be a bit colder, but overall the temperatures will be a little bit less than they are from Lisbon southbound. But absolutely gorgeous beaches, and massive, huge beaches. So very big, large, sandy beaches.
Amazing. I love that. So talk to me a little bit about working with American buyers. What is that experience like? And from your perspective, what is it that the Americans are looking for? What do they ask for the most?
Yeah, that's another, I think, extremely important question that you're bringing up here, because we've seen, as I said earlier, we've seen a tremendous increase in interest from the American public, and more Americans start investing into Portugal. And foremost, I would say their first expectation when they talk to people like us, which are professionals within the real estate world, is they really want to be educated about the country. It's a priority beyond, obviously, the actual purchase, is to understand, okay, how do I deal with people? Give me a feel for the gastronomy. Actually, some of the points that we touched upon in the questions that you asked me prior, what are the distances? What is it like in terms of healthcare? What is it like in terms of safety? So it's really that entire educational aspect that makes them feel comfortable, or even more comfortable than they already were, to look into a specific investment opportunity into Portugal. I think we have to be very broad, especially when it comes to those first contacts with American customers, and really trying to take the time as much as we can in explaining what makes Portugal unique. What are the tremendous facilities? What might be some of the more complex things that they might have to deal with? Where, again, we are there to help them with that, meaning towards which professionals can we direct them to overcome some of the more complex aspects, and so forth and so on, because, the fiscal system is different, legal system is different, like it is in any other country. So nothing that cannot be overcome. But it's, again, making them comfortable about the destination first, and then making them comfortable about, whatever it is that it takes, and whatever implications that there are, to make that step as smooth, as easy as possible to them, which is ultimately, buying their home here, or their second home, or investing in commercial, or whatever, their underlying objective might be, so to say.
I love it. I love it. That's so helpful. Before we wrap up today, is there anything else you want to share with our listeners about Portugal?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think, by now you figured that I'm rather passionate about Portugal. And one of the things that I think the country really conveys within no time, to whoever comes here, is the diversity. Despite being a relatively small country, it has a lot of diversity from north to south. And that goes for so many things. It goes for gastronomy, that goes for the people themselves, that goes for what it is that, certain regions offer as opposed to others, meaning some regions are absolutely focused on the nature offerings, so some others more on the cultural aspect and so forth. There's just a tremendous amount of diversity. and a lot of still untapped. I always make a comparison. When I lived here in the 90s, I would say Portugal is the best kept secret, because at that time it sort of was the best kept secret. Today, it by far is no longer, the best kept secret, which is positive, but it still has a lot of secrets. So, that sort of summarizes the way I used to look, and I still look at Portugal today. And I think, to wrap it up, it's a very welcoming country. People feel comfortable. People love the tranquility, the lifestyle, and everything that comes with it, basically.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your insights today and your experience. I'm planning my next trip to Portugal already, just talking with you today.
Well,
So
there you go.
just a note to thank you so much, Mario.
More than
Just
welcome.
a note to our listeners, be sure to subscribe. We've got amazing content coming up in the next few sessions. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Hamptons. We're going to talk a little bit more about what you should be looking out for with your real estate investing. And it's just been my pleasure to talk with you today, Mario. Thank you.
Ali, the pleasure was all mine. And thank you also to the listeners and viewers. And as Ali mentioned, there's much more content to come up. And the next one that will be put on the map, and I'm very curious about that one, is the Hamptons. So thanks again. Bye to everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.